What is stronger than weapons? Not missiles, not bullets. In Ouagadougou today, the answer echoes not through gunfire, but through the roar of nearly 2,000 machines, 400 tractors, 239 motorcycles, 710 water pumps, and 714 motorbikes for farm agents. They line the capital like an army, not an army of war, but an army of harvest. I call this moment a silent transfer of power, moving away from offices and foreign agreements back into the calloused hands of those who make the nation live, the producers, the farmers, the builders. In a world where many still wait for aid, Burkina Faso chose action. Instead of signing another deal, they distributed tools. Instead of speaking of sovereignty, they engineered it through motion, sweat, and steel. This wasn't just a ceremony. It was a declaration, a manifesto, written in oil dust and determination. Because in a nation where survival depends on the land, the true weapons of independence are not rifles, but engines that dig, irrigate, and sow. Burkina Faso is no longer waiting for the future. It has started the engines and begun to build it. To understand what happened that day in Ouagadougou, you must understand the man behind it, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. He is not a politician born from speeches, but a soldier born from crisis, a leader forged in the heat of rebellion, not the comfort of diplomacy. When he took power, Burkina Faso was trapped in a cycle: insecurity, poverty, dependence. Foreign troops occupied its soil. Gold, the nation's greatest treasure, left its borders faster than food could reach its villages. Development came with conditions and aid came with oversight. Traoré saw that pattern and broke it. He expelled foreign military bases. He nationalized gold revenues. He established a national treasury, redirecting every ounce of wealth back into public investment. His message was clear. Sovereignty is not a slogan, it is a system. That system now takes form through Faso Mêbo, meaning we build Faso with our own hands. It's not just a development plan. It's a philosophy of survival. From my point of view, Traoré's revolution is both economic and spiritual. It's about dismantling psychological dependence, proving that progress doesn't need permission. In an age where Africa is often treated as a recipient, he is teaching that a self-reliant nation can also be a self-respecting one. The morning sun over Ouagadougou did not rise on speeches. It rose on steel smoke and sound. Rows of tractors, motorbikes, and water pumps stretched like a metallic horizon. 400 tractors, 239 motorcycles, 710 motor pumps, and 714 bikes for agricultural field agents. Nearly 2,000 engines, every one a symbol of motion of a nation that no longer asks for help, but builds with its own hands. When President Ibrahim Traoré arrived, there was no red carpet, no military parade. Only mechanics, farmers, and youth, the faces of a working revolution. Cameras caught him not standing above the crowd, but walking among them, wiping oil from his palms after turning the ignition of the first tractor himself. These engines are not gifts, he said, his voice steady. They are responsibilities, the weapons of peace. That line rippled through the capital. For decades, Africa's development had been announced through aid agreements and loan packages. But this scene, a nation funding its own machines, felt like a reversal of history. From my perspective, this day marked the true start of post-colonial independence, not symbolic, but mechanical. The sound of engines replaced the sound of applause, and for the first time, every vibration in the ground felt like the pulse of a country claiming its right to stand alone. This wasn't just a delivery of machines, it was the birth of an idea that sovereignty can be built with steel. The ceremony was only the beginning. Days later, the government announced an unprecedented support package, not in loans or pledges, but in tangible supplies: 10,000 tons of fish feed, 68,964 tons of fertilizer, 10,000 liters of phytosanitary products, 18,000 tons of vegetable seeds, 2,300 tons of feed seeds, and 10,000 tons of concentrated livestock food. In a world where agriculture is often dictated by donors and multinationals, Burkina Faso is building a national ecosystem of self-reliance. The tractors are not isolated tools. They are the mechanical backbone of a new agricultural order that integrates crop production, livestock, aquaculture, and agro-industry. From my perspective, this is not merely an investment. It is a declaration of intent. Traoré's government is proving that real development begins when a nation feeds its own people before exporting its soil. No USAID frameworks, no IMF supervision, only domestic coordination funded by Burkina's own gold and managed by its own citizens. This ecosystem, known as Faso Mêbo, is reshaping the very psychology of the countryside. Young people once dreaming of Europe are now applying for training in irrigation and soil management. Farmers once dependent on imported seeds now receive Burkina-grown varieties engineered for the Sahel's climate. As a political observer, I see here a rare kind of revolution, one built not on slogans, but on logistics. Burkina Faso is quietly proving that sovereignty is not only political, it is agricultural. Numbers rarely tell stories, but in this case they roar louder than any speech. Nearly 2,000 machines now operate across Burkina Faso's fields. Tractors, tilling the earth, pumps irrigating the plains, and motorbikes connecting rural agents to farmers in the most remote corners of the Sahel. Economically, the logic is simple, yet revolutionary. Each machine generates one direct job and 4 indirect ones: mechanics, drivers, technicians, seed suppliers, traders. That means almost 10,000 new jobs created, not by foreign corporations but by national policy. From a practical standpoint, this changes everything. Agricultural output is projected to grow by 25–30% within a single year. Average rural income may rise by 20%, especially in Bamako and the northern provinces. Rice, maize, and vegetable exports are expected to increase regionally, reducing dependence on imports from Ghana or Côte d'Ivoire. But beyond data, this is a psychological breakthrough. It restores confidence in work, the belief that a farmer's hands, when equipped with machines, are as powerful as any soldier's. Steel, fuel, and faith. A local economist told me have become the new trinity of Burkina's rebirth. From my analysis, this is not just economic reform, it is economic liberation. The government's reinvestment of profits into local cooperatives creates a circular economy where national money serves national purpose. In essence, every engine in motion is not only plowing fields, it is cultivating independence. News of the machine revolution spread across Africa faster than the engines themselves could move. In Bamako, Niamey, and N'Djamena, governments sent delegations to Ouagadougou to study the Faso Mêbo model, a system where the state equips its people instead of indebting them. The symbolism was unmistakable. Burkina Faso was no longer a follower in regional development, it had become a blueprint. From my analysis, this moment marked a psychological shift in the Sahel. For the first time, self-reliance was not an academic slogan, but an operational policy with budgets, fuel, and manpower. Not everyone welcomed it. In Paris, editorials dismissed the movement as populist adventurism. In Washington, USAID analysts called it an unsustainable deviation from aid frameworks. Yet their silence spoke louder than their criticism. They understood that the real threat was not economic loss, but the erosion of influence. Meanwhile, in Moscow and Beijing, state media hailed Traoré as a new Sankara of the 21st century. Across African social platforms, hashtags like "Build with Our Hands" and Faso Model began trending not as propaganda, but as pride. From my perspective, this isn't anti-Western policy, it's post-dependence policy. Burkina Faso isn't fighting the world, it's fighting the idea that it cannot stand without permission. Every tractor, every pump, every motorcycle delivered in Faso sent a message far beyond its borders. The age of waiting is over. Africa is building on its own terms. Burkina Faso's revolution does not march in parades or echo in gunfire. It hums in the rhythm of engines, in the metallic pulse of 2,000 machines across the plains, each one a heartbeat of renewal. Traoré is not arming for war, I once heard a farmer say. He is arming for harvest. That phrase captures the spirit of this era. For decades, independence in Africa was declared on paper, but here it is being forged in the soil. Steel replaces speeches. Effort replaces applause. From my point of view, what Traoré is doing is redefining the very nature of power. True power is not control over people, but mastery over your own production, your own food, your own destiny. And that's exactly what Burkina Faso is doing quietly, methodically, and fearlessly. This is no fantasy of instant success. There will be droughts, challenges, and political storms. But for the first time in a generation, a nation is trying to win freedom by building, not by begging. When I hear the roar of those engines, I don't hear noise. I hear a promise that Africa's rise will not come from aid or ideology, but from work, will, and wisdom. Each machine that moves the soil is rewriting history, and that sound no empire can silence.